History is littered with tyrants, but these 10 rulers took evil to a whole new level. We're not talking about your run-of-the-mill bad king who taxed the peasants a bit too much. No, we are peeling back the skin of history to look at the absolute worst of the worst. The kind of evil that makes your blood run cold, the sort of darkness that stains the pages of our past forever. These are the individuals who wielded absolute power not for the good of their people, but as a weapon of mass destruction, a tool for their own sadistic pleasure and twisted ideologies. Their names are whispered in hushed, fearful tones, synonymous with suffering, death, and unimaginable cruelty. Tonight, we're not just listing names. We're going on a journey, a rather grim one, I'll admit, into the very heart of darkness. We're going to stare into the abyss and examine the legacies of the 10 most monstrous rulers to have ever walked this earth. From the frozen gulags of Siberia to the killing fields of Cambodia, their reigns of terror stretched across continents and centuries, leaving behind a trail of broken bodies and shattered societies. Right then, kicking off our little list of horrors at number 10 is a man whose name is practically a synonym for cruelty. Vlad III of Wallachia, better known to you, me, and Bram Stoker as Vlad the Impaler. Now, you might think you know the story, fangs, bats, castles in Transylvania. But the reality, I'm afraid, is far more gruesome than any vampire tale. This wasn't a creature of the night. This was a man, a prince. Interior decorating involved forests of impaled bodies. He ruled in the 15th century, a properly brutal time, but even by those standards, Vlad was exceptional. His favorite party trick, the one that earned him his charming moniker, was impalement. He didn't just do it to enemy soldiers, oh no, he did it to his own people. The stories say he once had tens of thousands of captured Ottoman soldiers impaled outside his capital. Coming in at number 9, we have the architect of a modern-day nightmare, the founder of a dynasty of despots, Kim Il-sung of North Korea. Now, some of the tyrants on this list are flashes in the pan. He crafted a system of control so total, so absolute, that it has outlived him by decades, passed down like a cursed family heirloom. He didn't just rule a country, he remade it in his own twisted image. Kim Il-sung established the Kwaliso, a network of brutal concentration camps for anyone deemed an enemy of the state. In the 1990s, the arduous march killed hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, all while the regime poured resources into its nuclear program and luxury for the elite. He created a prison the size of a country, a chilling legacy. At number 8, we find a man whose name became a byword for Middle Eastern brutality, Saddam Hussein of Iraq. This wasn't a ruler from the distant, murky past. His grip on Iraq was absolute, maintained by a pervasive secret police, torture chambers, and a willingness to slaughter anyone who stood in his way. He eliminated rivals with brutal efficiency. He waged war on his own people. The Anfal campaign was a systematic genocide. The campaign's horrific climax came in 1988 in Halabja, sensitivity warning. The next images are graphic. He ordered chemical attacks, killing thousands in a single day. Hundreds of thousands were rounded up and executed in mass graves. For over 2 decades, he ruled with an iron fist, a modern-day Nebuchadnezzar. Now, at number 7, we encounter a figure whose death toll is so mind-bogglingly vast, it's difficult to comprehend. Chairman Mao Zedong, the founding father of the People's Republic of China. Mao's evil was on an industrial scale. His great leap forward aimed to industrialize overnight. Backyard steel furnaces produced useless metal and no one left to farm. The result? The Great Chinese Famine. Millions starved. A few years later, he launched the Cultural Revolution to purge rivals and bourgeois thought. Temples destroyed, intellectuals humiliated, society ripped apart, teachers beaten by students, children turned against parents. The total death toll is staggering, likely exceeding 60 million. He was a social engineer who counted tens of millions of lives as an acceptable price. A truly terrifying thought. For number 6, we travel back to 16th century Russia to meet a man whose nickname really says it all, Ivan IV, or Ivan the Terrible. The original Russian Grozny, fearsome, awe-inspiring, fits him like a glove. He created the Oprichnina, essentially a state within a state, a black-clad death squad. They rode black horses, carried severed dogs' heads on their saddles to sniff out treason, and brooms to sweep it away. Their most infamous act was the 1570 massacre of Novgorod. For weeks, the city suffered an orgy of violence, torture, burning and slaughter. Victims were tied to sleighs, dragged into freezing rivers, hunted for sport. Chroniclers estimated tens of thousands dead. In a fit of fury, he killed his own son. An image captured by Repin, a man consumed by demons, a truly terrible Tsar. We're at the halfway point, number 5. He wasn't a frothing madman or a revolutionary ideologue. He presented himself as a great humanitarian, but the truth was far darker. King Leopold II of Belgium was the architect of a private Holocaust in the heart of Africa. He ran the Congo as his personal plantation, enforced by the Force Publique. Villages were enslaved to meet rubber quotas. Failure meant massacre. Soldiers were required to bring back the severed right hand of every person they killed. Sensitivity warning. The following images are graphic historical evidence. Photographs of severed hands and amputees, women, men, small children, became the symbol of his reign. The population was reduced by roughly 50%, perhaps 10 million dead. All while Leopold built palaces in Belgium with the profits from rubber. An absentee landlord of hell. A king who committed genocide for profit. Entering our top 4, we come to a name that evokes some of the most haunting images of the 20th century. Pol Pot. As leader of the Khmer Rouge, he oversaw a genocide so swift, so radical, so complete. They declared Year Zero and aimed to erase the past. Cities were emptied, people forced at gunpoint into the countryside. They worked as slaves on collective farms. Money and religion were abolished. Merely wearing glasses, speaking a foreign language, or having soft hands could mark you for death. Thousands were held at Tuol Sleng, S21, a school-turned-torture center, then taken to the killing fields and bludgeoned to death. Up to 2 million people, a quarter of the population, were exterminated. A brief, unimaginably dark reign that destroyed a nation. Pol Pot's nihilism is one of history's darkest chapters. At number 3, we have a man who, depending on who you ask, was either a visionary nation builder or the greatest mass murderer before the 20th century. Genghis Khan united the Mongol tribes and unleashed them upon the world. They carved out the largest contiguous land empire in history. Their strategy: submit or be annihilated, masters of siege and psychological terror. Resist and entire metropolises could be wiped off the map, their people massacred, libraries burned, buildings leveled. Some estimates put the death toll around 40 million, yet he also created Pax Mongolica and tolerated religions. Complexity does not erase the slaughter. Raw, brutal ambition reshaped demographics with a human hurricane of destruction. The achievements don't excuse the method. The price was tens of millions of innocent lives. Our runner-up for the title of history's darkest ruler is a man whose name is a synonym for totalitarian terror. Joseph Stalin, a man of immense paranoia, bottomless cruelty, and absolute power. He implemented forced collectivization, seizing grain and animals from peasants. He engineered a famine, the Holodomor, deliberately starving millions. He sealed borders and confiscated food to break Ukrainian resistance. Then came the Great Purge, arrests, show trials, executions. Thousands were sent to the Gulag, labor camps across Siberia, where prisoners were worked to death. Mines, logging camps, construction projects. Stalin forged a society of fear, denunciations, informers, arrest quotas. A wrong word could send you to the firing squad, a true monster of the modern age. And so we arrive at number 1, the name that represents the absolute nadir of human evil, Adolf Hitler, a name that has become the very definition of a monster. His crimes were systematic, rooted in hateful pseudoscience. He was the architect of World War II, the most destructive conflict in history. Cities firebombed into rubble, entire nations drenched in blood. He was the driving force behind the Holocaust, industrialized murder. Death camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor were factories designed to kill efficiently. 6 million Jews were murdered, along with millions of others: Roma, homosexuals, disabled, Slavs, political opponents. For sheer scale, cold efficiency, and hateful ideology, Hitler stands alone. He is, without question, the darkest ruler in human history. So there you have it. A journey through the deepest, darkest pits of human history. 10 names that will forever be associated with tyranny, suffering, and death. From the impaled forests of Vlad to the gas chambers of Auschwitz. We stared into the abyss of what happens when absolute power is combined with absolute evil. It's grim, sobering, and exhausting. But looking away is not an option. We have to look. We have to remember. These stories are more than footnotes. They are warnings. They show how fragile civilization can be, how easily societies can be seduced by hatred, how quickly the veneer of humanity can be stripped away, the terrifying power of ideology, the danger of personality cults, the catastrophic consequences of apathy in the face of rising tyranny. The millions upon millions of victims had lives, families, hopes, dreams, lives and dreams extinguished by the megalomania of a few. Their ghosts cry out from mass graves and forgotten camps. They implore us to learn the lessons they taught with their lives. We must be vigilant against the language of hate. We must defend democracy and human rights. We must never allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering of others. These rulers remind us of the darkness humanity is capable of. Let us never forget so history does not repeat itself. If this moved you, remember the names, remember the victims, and stand against hate.